a one-on-one live if you want. Hello Krish, Rao Yogesh, hello Dinesh, Mr. Surya Prakash, hello. This live session is basically about the Colrex, which is one of the most important thing for duty officers. You may or you may not know your cargo operations, but if you don't know your Colrex, then for sure you will get some opportunities, but it will be difficult for you to stay on the bridge. And then after a few months of hope, then finally you will have to pack your bags and go home. So ROR is something nobody accepts. Arun, welcome. ROR related questions, Arun. Arun, if you're most welcome to join, if you want to, if you're ready. Yuvraj, Captain Subhash, most welcome. Sanskar, hello. Good evening, Rajat. Sanskar, hello. All right, Surya Prakash, I know the concepts of ROR, but not word to word. I am in quarantine before joining my ship. That's okay. On board ships, nobody is going to ask you word by word. All right, Arun, no problem. See, basically, ROR is all about concepts. Rule number 5 to 10, you don't have to mug up. And also, especially till rule number 19, you don't have to mug up. I am good. Mahesh, Suninen, Ankit, hello. Yuvraj, good evening. So anybody has any questions regarding ROR? UK से second mate की क्या requirement है? I would not know that because I have not done any exams from UK. UK is more systematic. If you drop them a mail, definitely they would reply back to you. Okay, one good question. Shapes and lights में confusion होता है. Okay, see, अपना ROR का जो कार्ड्स है ना, भंडार का पब्लिकेशन, दोस्त फॉर श्योर हो तो याद करने that you have to memorize for your exams. Okay, but on board, very only the ships at anchor, you will see that they have put their daylight signals. So mostly, basically, you have to at least be expert in the signals for the night. So nighttime anchor vessels, less than 50 meters, more than 50 meters, and RUC, NUC, RAM, those ships you have to be very much thorough in the lights and shapes, especially. Let me pin this comment. Restricted maneuverability. All right, see, as per the definition, I have the RO ready. In this regulation number 3, RAM का जो definition है, basically any vessel which shows the RAM lights is a RAM vessel. ठीक है? To confirm, you will get it on your AIS, but doesn't matter. If you can see, any vessel can put this RAM. All right. For exam purpose, you had the definition, but actual on board the ship, if you see any red, white, red lights, then you comply with your rule number 18. You have to give way to the RAM and NUC. Do we need to learn all rules for second mate or other exam? Yes, lights and shapes, it's better to prepare using the ROR cards. Okay, once you prepare that, then you will be thorough. And rule number 2 to rule number 19, possible just remember all those rules by heart, because there are many surveys they will ask you word by word. Nitin, Vatish, hello. Okay. Can you tell me some tips and tricks to by heart ROR? Hmm. Basically, in our 3 months of pre-C, we studied it almost every day, all these rules literally every day. So you have your 1 year DNS. I think that 1 year should be more than enough for you to remember the rules. And basically ignore the rule number 1. It's too long and waste. Just study rule number 2 onwards till rule number 19, the restricted visibility ones. And after that, lights and shapes, you just remember the definition of the lights and other, the degrees, the sectors. But basically, it's all about the ROR cards. If you're thorough with the ROR cards, then you will not have any problems practically on board as well as during exams. Right. So next, let's see. One day I would like you, captain, with solid experience with passion. All right. So I will take that as a compliment. Many things to keep in mind. I'm joining my first shift within a week. Okay. Congratulations for getting your first ship. All the best. It's tanker or dry ship? Okay, from where you can get Cockcroft. I have a soft copy of Cockcroft. One of the deck cadets itself has sent me. So you can send me an email on my DM. I can send you by email. Or if you can share your number, I can give it to you by WhatsApp. All right. So next, Surya Prakash, rule number 10. Okay, just a second. Respectfully, Captain Miss Claude Howda Valiba. How to work on the knowledge of maps. Can you just elaborate which maps are you talking about? Okay, TSS. So, all right. So, let me just go through TSS. See, TSS, I'll just, okay, just let me go one by one. Somebody has asked me, Surya has asked me about TSS. See, TSS, it's all about practical. I'll not be not going into the theoretical and, like other lecturers. There is a routing guide on board the ships. Okay. Based on that, you will come to know which, even on the actives, you can see if it is a TSS, it is a, solid lines. That means it is a mandatory TSS. If it is a recommended ones, then those rules will not apply. But even though those are recommended TSS, we still follow them because it's anytime better to follow a traffic separation scheme. All right. Then when you are in those TSS, remember this rule number 10 will apply only in the mandatory TSS. And in the optional TSS, voluntary, then these rules become voluntary. Because the first point says that adopted by the organization and does not relieve any vessel of obligation under any other rule. All right. So if you see rule number 18, the first line, remember always remember the first line. It will say 9, 10, and 13. Then rule number 18 applies. All right. So basically, remember except rule number 9, 10, and 13, rule number 18 applies. So whenever you're going in the TSS, you follow the traffic direction. Wherever the arrow is pointing, whichever direction of the TSS, you will be following that. You cannot join or leave the TSS in between. You have to do it at the terminations. You cannot do anchoring, it says. And whenever you're joining or leaving the lane, you go at a small angle. All right, those are the basic things it's mentioned in the ROR. You cannot cross TSS unless you have to do so, and practically you have to cross the TSS many times. If you're coming out from Singapore or any of the ports and there is TSS, you have to cross. That time you cross at 90 degrees. Many of the lecturers or your examiners, they'll ask you why 90 degrees, because first thing, it is the shortest to cross the TSS. All right, that is one thing. Second thing, the aspect of the vessel is clearly visible. If you're crossing at 90 degrees, you can clearly see the vessel's, the side aspect from whichever side she is crossing. That is the reason it is 90 degree. And basically the shortest, if you draw any slanting line, it is longest. All right, then you cannot use the inshore traffic zone. Now, what is inshore traffic zone? It is the area between the nearest land and the TSS. That is the inshore traffic zone. You cannot go into that, but you can go if you're joining or leaving the port. Then any vessel other than a crossing or a vessel joining or leaving the lane should not enter. So between the two TSS, there is a separation line or separation zone. You should not enter in that. But it happens sometimes that because of avoiding some traffic, keeping good CPA, it happens that we do enter the traffic separation zone. No problem. Then you can come back to your original track. You can go. And unless you want to do fishing, and nobody, the ships that we work upon, the power-driven ships, we never engage in fishing when we are underway in TSS. All right. So next is if you're navigating near the termination of the traffic separation scheme, mostly it will be the precautionary area. Be careful. If you're not using the TSS, keep as wide as possible. Vessel engage in fishing. Okay. Now, if any vessel is following the traffic lane, fishing vessels will not impede the passage of any vessel following the traffic lane. All right. But it's only on book. There are lots of fishing boats everywhere that do not follow Colrex. So that time you have to navigate with extreme caution over there. And RAM vessels for maintenance of safety of navigation and laying servicing, those are exempted from rule number 10. All right, so that is done with the rule number 10. Now let me see which. I will have an obsession about geography, like maps, countries. How do I make it vast? Okay. What you do is you take a 200 pages notebook. I don't know if it is a first shift, second shift, and you start writing your personal diary kind of. Every port, what you experienced, which are the TSS that you have to follow, which port control you have to call, and all that. Just make your own personal notes. Then it will be very helpful when you, when your rank progresses. But during the second mid oral, is there any to show any type of note? Okay, this is not a RO related question, but you might get some, old surveyors, old fashioned ones. So they might ask you to show you some notes. So just study the basic notes, whatever, practice with, your group study is very important whenever you're preparing for orals. You cannot study single and pass. Group study, if you study, then for sure your chances of passing orals will be high. Okay, let me say this, Prince. Okay, as a giveaway vessel in crossing situation, all right, how much we have to alter so that the other vessel know that the giveaway vessel can take action? Okay, good question. Rule number 8F. Let me see rule number 8F. Okay, 8F I'll explain, don't worry. First, Prince Sharma's answer. Okay, Surya, just hold on. I will answer your question again. So, see, basically, you are the giveaway vessel. There is a vessel crossing from starboard to port. All right. Uss time pe what you are supposed to do is, whenever you make an alteration, provided there is good enough sea room, speed is always in the hands of duty officer. Nobody is going to stop you from using your speed, but always prefer course alteration. So what practically we do whenever you go as a third mate or as a cadet, we'll see we alter if the vessel is a 45 degrees to starboard, for example, all right, or 30 degrees to starboard. What we do is we make a broad alteration and bring a right ahead. All right, so that is a very big alteration. All right, the more you alter early, the lesser alteration you have to do. So you make a big or wide alteration, bring a right ahead. After that, for sure, your CPA will start increasing because she is already crossed your bow and the bearing will start opening. So depending where the vessel is there, you keep following the, and then what you do is, now if you keep maintaining the track, you will start going off track. Okay, you don't want that. So once you bring the vessel right ahead, all right, you bring the vessel right ahead, and if she is going from starboard to port, you keep following your stern, and then you will slowly come back to your track. So in that case, you don't have to go, too much off track. I hope this answer is clear. I'm a cadet and I'm carrying personal notes. What kind of notes should I take so that it will be handy in future? Anything? See, you will be carrying anyways your books for your DLP. So on bridge there is lots of stationery available. You make your own personal notes for every ship, whatever, every day, whatever you learn, just keep on writing it. It makes a good impression for with your senior officers as well. And keep that book handy for your 18 months. Okay. Do some vessels have bridged forward, so there will be any confusion at night over there? So most of the car carriers and even the passengers mostly we will not be getting a chance. So the car carriers have the bridge forward. So the orientation of the navigation is totally different, on the tankers and other ships. You have to make sure your your bow crosses first, and then the stern automatically clears. But in those ships, you will alter your course, but you have to make sure your stern is clear, whenever you're passing any anchored vessels or any of the, fishing boats or anything. You have to take care of your stern. That will take time. Once you go on board and if within few weeks, you will get adjusted to the orientation of the ship. Even the huge container ships, their bridge is in between. I hope you know why it is in between, why the bridge is not aft on the 300, 400 meters containers, because of the visibility of the our navigation lights. All right, so you go through the annexes, you will come to know the horizontal spacing of lights. It is because of those reasons the accommodation is in center of the container ships, the huge container ships. GP rating, no. If you're going from high water, okay, Rajat, see, this is not a RO related question, but a vessel is going from high density to low density water, then keeping which density in mind we carry the overall. Doesn't matter. The weight always remains the same. The drafts will change. So when you declare, if you're supposed to load to your cargo, all right. So you will declare your drafts in salt water as well as the dock water, and accordingly you will load your cargo to keep that. It will not vary with the density. But we never submerge the load line wherever we are presently located. Right, Vaishnavi, hi, Shashidharan, hi. Load line and all we can cover it next time, See, difference between light shown by a vessel underway and vessel making through the water. So making through the water, all right, is the normal. Both the lights, in my opinion, good question, is the same. The light thing is the same, but in the case of restricted visibility, I believe there is a fog signal difference in between them. All right, so If you're making way through the water, that means you have speed. All right, you're moving through water. Your Doppler speed is more than 0 knots or 1 knot, but you're underway. That means you are presently your Doppler speed is 0. In that case, you are forward. I mean, your navigation lights, side lights, stern light will be on. So there's no light difference. That time, if you're involved in any of the call rights, CPA is 0. It is also your duty to keep clear if you're the gateway vessel. If you're underway and you're having any problems with your engines or any of the other problems, that time you have to put up your NUC lights for you to be considered, as a not under command, and then the other vessel becomes the gateway vessel. Okay, somebody is asking what difference between EPUB and SART. What's the difference between EPUB and SART? So that they're paid more compared to other ships. Definitely not a navigation question. EPUB is basically it will help you to give signal to the local user terminal satellites, COSPAS satellites. If you get abandoned ship in middle of the Pacific, SART is not going to help you. EPUB is going to give your location to the MRCCs and the RCCs. Then they will start searching for you, and that time you have to activate your SART. SART is useful only for a range of around 12 miles, and only for the ships who have their X-band radar working. So they will be able to locate you. It all goes step by step. EPUB, it will give the location to the MRCCs, RCCs. They will inform the nearest ships to search for you. That is the time you have to activate your SART. Okay, let me see. Due to any mistake done by the third officer, a collision takes place. Who will be responsible? Third officer or anyone on board? See, you have joined your ship as a navigating officer. You just make sure that by the time you retire or quit, collision is something that you cannot accept that. So don't think negatively, collision happens. But in case collision takes place, there is something called as VDR on board the ship. And even the ECDIS, it can be, records for last 1 month, 3 months, doesn't matter, depending on the ECDIS. So everything is recorded. So from the time you have taken action, the VDR, there are cameras on the bridge, your presence of mind, your actions, when you took action, how you took action, the inspectors, the PNI surveyor, and the investigating team will come, and then they will do a thorough examination. And they will find, if they find that you had done your part, you did your you took your proper action as per the call regs, and then the blame factor and all that, the commercial aspect comes into play. So nobody is blamed directly, but practically it is always the junior who gets sacked just to close out the investigation. The junior officer is always the one to get sacrificed, to be honest. Jayesh 46, big fan. So basically the VDR and all the investigation will be carried out. Then also, if the collision took place in your watch, first question, why didn't you call the master? That's why in my other videos also, which I did, always, if slightest doubt you have in your mind, slightest, that maybe I think, I need some help, call the master immediately. He will come. He will be confident that you have called him. And next time, he will trust you. And, work as a team. You don't have to think that, I will navigate the ship by myself. It's always better, that's why, you must have done your bridge team management and bridge resource management. So it's a team effort. And also one of my video, I've talked about the Swiss cheese theory. There are a lot of barriers. If you are the only barrier and, you have the AB and collision takes place, that means you have not used the third barrier, which is your master. So I have lots of barriers. If needed, call extra lookout, call chief mate, doesn't matter. At the end, as a navigating officer, you have to to make sure that you don't collide with any other ship or any other object, at least collision. Wait, Garima is asking some different topic. I want to clear how much sports matter in defense services. Merchant Navy is not a part of your defense services, so here there is no sports quota as such. In fact, once you join the ship, you will lose all your practice of whatever sports you had. Okay, let me say this. Surya Prakash. You said we should maneuver cautiously since fishing boats won't follow rules. In what sense you're interpreting? I mean, ships take a lot of time to turn, unlike fishing boats. See, that's there. Practically, even though, TSS, the fishing boats, they are the ones to stay clear of you. But it is always very, they are the worst when it comes to navigation. They never follow the rules. They will, come in front of you. They'll come, and if you alter towards their fishing buoys, wherein the nets are located, they'll start approaching towards you. Well, in my past experience in Singapore, lots of it was we were going through the TSS and lots of lights in the night, and then that time, you cannot. You cannot see the radar and navigate because then you have to use your visual. So I just stood near the wheel. The AB was steering, and I was just looking at the visually with all the fishing buoys and just making my course alterations. And then some of the fishing boats will come towards you as if they're trying to hijack you because they want to make sure that you don't run over their fishing buoys. But that time, just screw them. That time you have to protect, get your ship safely navigated. So do your best to protect the fishing buoys. If not, just pass over it. Most of the fishing buoys are very well, deeply located down, so nothing happens. But stay clear of the fishing boats. And if you call on the VHF, there are hundreds of fishing boats nearby. It is, that is a big disaster because you will never be sure which fishing boat is answering you. You can only be sure with the other ships, but with the fishing boats, never use VHF. Just do your alteration and uh, do your safe navigation and come out safely. Do you face any pirate attack? Tomorrow, I believe, with my Maritime Universe group, we'll be talking about security. So that time we can discuss the pirate attack questions. Anchor, Amit, what makes a sailor working in a tanker so that they're paid more compared to other ships? Hmm. See, the simple example, any on the dry ships, the only oil that can spill overboard is from the bunker tanks. All right, so that is very much in a less ratio compared to the size of the ship's gross tonnage or deadweight. But on tanker, you are actually carrying that flammable or the toxic cargo, the oil or chemical, and single drop going overboard, there are huge penalties, fine, jail. For example, the V ship's captain and chief officer were in jail for almost 12 months and 10 months because the crude oil went overboard. So the your chances of going to jail and getting penalized is very much high on the tankers. And it is you are working on deck, you are always exposed to so many gases, so many flammable vapors, so many toxic vapors, working corrosive cargoes. You're playing with risk. The working culture is totally different on the tankers compared to the containers. I've been on containers. It is kind of clean atmosphere, chillax out there. Bulky is okay. Coal carrier and all that over, you might get that health hazards, but it is not as worst as the chemical tankers. That's why the oil tankers, they deserve to earn a little bit more. Plus, the lots of inspections, SIRE, CDI, and PSC is quite strict on the tankers compared to the dry ships. Dry ships, they have lots of shore leaves. Those people really enjoy. Tankers, it's it's quite hectic in port operations. So I believe it makes sense to pay on little bit more than the dry cargoes. See, what is the work profile of a vessel operator? That is not a part of this ROR and definitely not for the people, for cadets who are going to sail. So I will skip that. Pursuing DNS by online. If you're getting online DNS because everything is new, See, practically, I have seen on board ships, even the 1 year DNS who have properly studied entirely, offline, appeared for your colleges. Even they come on board, they know nothing. It has happened. Uh, That's a fact. The present days DNS guys or even the BSc Nautical Science are not as good as you expect them to be. So basically, it is what they learn on those 18 months or 12 months on board, and how they change themselves and be a good officer in making. That's what you can you know follow all those captains and other guys. They have lots of followers and all that, but to reach there, okay, to reach there, you need to follow the content or the knowledge that I am providing, or maybe some people like me they will be providing. You cannot be a captain or a chief engineer without possessing the knowledge, and that is what I am after. So that will make a difference between a good officer and a substandard officer. Ultimately, you will all go to become a third officer, second officer someday. But that is where you will decide whether you will pass your exams in first attempt, like me, or in four, five, six attempts, like everybody else. All right. So next, I have a good friend. All right. He is on board the ship and he has become second officer from AB. So he's on board and he'll be signing off very soon. So I'll get him live, and then you guys can ask all questions pertaining to how to become from OS, or if you have commerce stream, then how to join merchant navy. So that time we will answer all these queries. Don't worry. Okay, good question, Prince. I think Prince is in good form today. Deep knowledge of solars and Marple. Solars, no. You can never have deep knowledge of solars. I also don't have deep knowledge of solars. Marple, yes. Marple definitely, because then you are on watch 4 to 8, and chief cook calls up and says that can I throw food waste outside? That time a good cadet will say yes, we can throw food waste outside. Why? Because you're more than 12 miles off. All right, and we are not in a special area. And if you don't know that, that time you will be like like a fool. You will be asking chief mates, or chief cook is asking, can we throw outside? And then he will give you bamboo. That why don't you know your marple? So that time you should know a little bit about marple. Also, if you're on a chemical tanker, then you should know about Annex 2. If you're on an oil tanker, you should know about Annex 1. The sewage. Why, when we start disposing of our sewage and all that, you should know all that. Many of the times, engineer will ask you, are we more than 12 miles off, so that they can start the ODME. So that you will never know unless you study your Marpol. So Marpol, definitely, you should have good knowledge. Let me see. Did I miss anything? If I missed any questions and it has gone up, no. So just please retype if possible, or you can just send me a shortcut where I can see. See, why do ships go through Atlantic and Indian Ocean if they have to go to US to Japan? All right. So it all depends on the the distance, and many times we have multiple ports in between as well. So from Japan, if you're going to US through Panama Canal, and if you have ports on the from US to Japan, okay. So if you're on the west coast, then you take a great circle. That is the shortest distance possible. But if you're going on the way and you need to discharge some cargo, and the operator, the vessel operator, and all, they know the cargo fixtures. So if they have plans in mind, that you need to discharge some cargo in Africa, or somewhere in Singapore, so that time they will ask you to proceed through this route, because it is all planned by the operators where the cargo is fixed and where they will be discharging. But unless they told, so we always our voyages, everything is in liaise with the vessel operators. Let me see this question. What is this? Can you please give some advice to the trainee cadets who are already done? About the joining for the first time TME on ship, which ship is better? Doesn't matter. you consider yourself lucky that you at least have a ship. There are many hundreds people still looking for ship. So whichever ship you get, just do your best and get the maximum experience. And if it is older ship, then you will learn a lot of stuff which you will never learn on a new ship. So when you join as a fourth engineer on a new ship, you will be the boss. All right. So it's okay. Good question. Altis lamp, yes, it is a SOLAS requirement. And you remember the 5 shot blast in case you are in doubt with your any of the fishing, any of the targets. That time in the night, Altis lamp is the one. You continuously do your 5 flashes. That means you are in doubt of the intentions of the other vessels. So Altis lamp is definitely compulsory on board the ships, and it's a vetting requirement. They will come and check your spare lamp and the battery. I'll be posting this live. I'll be posting most of my videos which I'm doing live. I've been posting this in the IGTV. I am Ram Hevet. Please make a video of your life journey. It is in my YouTube channel and also in the IGTV. So please go through that. All right, doesn't matter. Let me see. Vessel operator. All right. Vessel operator is basically he's in charge of the vessel's voyage. He will fix the voyage. He will take care of your bunkers and take care of your cargo. Anything problems that you're facing with the cargo, you have to contact a voyage operator. So that is his role basically. And your commercial documents, the bill of lading and all that thing will be taken care by him. Your fresh water that you need for tank cleaning, your bunkers, everything will be managed by the vessel voyage operator or the vessel operator, and he has to take care of lot of ships within his coverage. So it is a very busy and hectic job. I was chosen by Maersk last year to do this vessel operator role, but I skipped because I wanted my command first. Do you see any chief officer or captain is making mistake in navigation in your cadet or junior officer level? Yes. But again, there are ways to handle that. It is happens that you will see the. I mean, say you will not say that they are making mistakes in navigation. They are doing it for some reason or the other. But then, as a cadet, what you have to do is, you should know your ROR first. Rule number 2 to rule number 19. Okay. Whenever you are on bridge and you see the chief mate taking action, for a crossing vessel, for a head-on vessel, or all that, ask him at the end of the alteration or everything, or if you see that he is relaxed, then you just ask him, because at that time maybe lots of fishing boats and he's nervous. So that time do not trouble him. That time you be a bridge team member and give him the relevant information. At the end of the thing, watch, or if the situation is over, ask him why you did this. Shouldn't we have gone to port? Shouldn't we have gone to starboard? Shouldn't we use the engines? Then he will try to explain to you. Then you will also understand the concept. So that will help you in your future listening. We will share some stability problems. Stability is not my strong subject, but then if you tell me which chapter, few of the cadets had asked me chapter 5, so I just made a short video on that. If you tell me any of the chapters, I can talk about the chapters, but I'll not be doing the numericals. Okay, numericals is for between you and your lecturers, but I can work on the theory part, and I try to explain it to you in a simpler language. Good question. Things we should note down when ship is going through RV. All right, very important question. Rule number 19. That time there is no give way, there is no stand on. All right, so I'll just give me 1 minute. See, in rule number 19, RV. All right, so just pay attention, guys, for the RV one. This applies to vessel not in sight of one another, navigating near an area. So if you are having you are in sight with other vessel, but you are near a foggy bank or something, then rule number 19 will apply. All right, first line. You should go at a safe speed. And if you see, you're passing through RV, master standing instructions will be, when the visibility is less than 3 miles or 5 miles, call master. So that will also, become one part of your question answers, that when do you consider, restricted visibility and when you call master. And suddenly, you get foggy patches in between, call master immediately. At that time, you don't have to wait. And that time immediately, guys, junior officers and cadets, switch on your fog on. All right, unless it's not working. When you're passing a restricted visibility, it doesn't matter day or night, switch on your fog on. Because if you don't, then either the chief mate or the master will have doubt on your competency, because you're supposed to use the fog ons. So switch on your fog ons. And a vessel which detects by radar alone. All right. So rule number 19D is the most important. You make a nice diagram. Basically, what it says is, your beam, your port to starboard, there is a beam. Any vessel forward of a beam, all right, from your port to starboard, whichever heading you're facing, you cannot go to port. If you have a vessel forward of a beam, alteration of course to port is prohibited. Next is the saying what you cannot do is alteration of course towards a vessel abeam or above the beam. Now, if you have any vessel abeam, or all right, so if you're heading 000, and if there is vessel on 270, so you cannot alter towards 270. Similarly, if you have a vessel on 090, you cannot alter towards 090. If any vessel above the beam, that means any vessel is, all right, your course is 000, all right. Any vessel is on 100, 120 degrees, you cannot go towards starboard. So basically, the concept, if you understand, what 19D is saying, it will be more or less complying with the rules of head-on and the crossing. So basically, you will be passing, because you don't have to think about your vessel, think about the other vessel as well. If you are, if there is another vessel forward of you, you will not alter to port, you will go to starboard. All right. For him also, you are forward of his beam, so he will also not go to port and he will go to starboard, and ultimately, he will pass clear of each other. So think of the other vessel's actions also, whenever you're taking action, what is he going to do? So that you will determine that whether you're passing clear or not. There's one important thing I'll answer about this. I think rule number 8 says that when the vessel is finally passed and clear, I don't know, 19 guys are watching, so you 19 guys pay attention. Many of the orals or, in your future ships, when do you consider the vessel is finally passed and clear? It's not mentioned anywhere in the ROR. All right. So there are a few factors which I have understood and I have studied, and I'm passing it on to you. All right. So when the vessel is finally passed and clear, for example, for a crossing situation or for a head-on situation. All right. Crossing situation. First condition is the vessel should have crossed a bow. That is the first tip, or the first factor when the vessel is finally passed and clear. Cross your bow, first thing. Second, bearing should be opening. All right. If the vessel is crossing, and you're the giveaway vessel is coming from the starboard side, that time the bearing is closing. It is dangerous. So for my second point should be the bearing should open. That means you should have crossed your bow, and the bearing should start opening between the target vessel. Second point. Third point is she should have crossed a beam. Now this applies for the head-on vessel. If the vessel is coming head-on, and you alter to starboard, she will alter to starboard, and she passes your beam. Three factors. So out of these three, any two agar comply hota hai na, if you can comply with any of these two, that means your vessel is finally passed and clear. This one you can answer to your company or your oral exams. No problem. So remember this. Acoustic Parmar, your videos are helping us a lot. Thank you, cadets from Chanakya. Thank you so much. That's my intent. I have been spending time and coming live for you guys. So at the end, I hope that by the time, all the cadets from all the institutes in our country, they watch this video and they get something or the other to learn from me. See, man overboard in narrow channel, then what will be the action? See, these are all the questions that your MMDs and all will ask, surveys will ask you, but that is for your second mates. I think as a cadet, I think you should not be worried about the man overboard in narrow channel, because that time it is not the cadet's duty. It is the master will be definitely on the bridge, and basically retrieving the person is important. You will do your mayday and all that. I mean, do not ask me any send me request to be in your live, please. Support from TMI. Oh, I like. I have good respect for TMI. TMI, Chanakya, IMI, Rahman. I have good respect because those cadets are the education imparted in those colleges is damn good. When the ship is at anchorage, what will be the day signals? Day signal is that anchor ball that will be in your forward part of the vessel. That's it. For the day and night signals, just refer to the Colrec book. That is it's very simple. Where the problem comes is, rule number 5 to rule number 19. That is where, confusion comes. Because this rule is designed in such a way that every line, every word, every full stop is important. Somebody is asking what rule 8F, no? So let me see. 8F. Okay, let me just, how much time it is now, guys? 20. You want me to continue a little bit about rule number 7, rule number 6? Because this. Okay, so let me just talk about rule number 5. Okay, it basically says you should, Anglo-Western Academy is good. Rule number 5 is says you should always maintain a proper lookout by sight and hearing, as well as all available means. All available means doesn't matter. It can be EGDIS, radar, AIS, anything that is available on the bridge. Bridge resource management in the prevailing circumstances and conditions, so as to make the full appraisal of the situation and of risk of collision. Simple rule. Rule number 6 talks about safe speed. Basically, it's common sense. If you're going through a heavy traffic density or visibility is poor, that time you should go, just like your car or bike, you should be going at a safe speed so that there is an accident ahead. Immediately, the car ahead of you stops suddenly, or has an accident. You should be able to stop before them. The safe speed funda is the same. You should be at a safe speed where you should be able to stop your vessel well before the collision or any of the other situation. So traffic density, you have to see maneuverability of the vessel, your turning characteristics, you have to ensure. Night, lots of scattered lights, shore lights. That time you can proceed at a slower speed than your normal sea speed. Your rough weather, rough weather we never proceed at a full speed. We go at a slow speed to avoid, to minimize the effects of rolling and pitching. And your draft, if you're constrained by a draft vessel, that time definitely you should not go at a full speed. Why? Because of the squat. You might touch the bottom. And with your radar, is very important. You should focus on the, your radar's limitation. Just study a little bit about the radar's concept, the minimum range and the X band, S band, which is good. Study about this when you go on board for your cadetship. That is important. All right, so that is rule number 6. It basically talks about the radar. And if lots of vessels are detected by radar, you got a safe speed. Rule number 7, basically importance is the bearing should be constant and also the range should be reducing. Remember that the bearing should be constant and the range should also be reducing. That is the time risk of collision exists. And if you're in doubt whether a risk of collision exists, that time you make sure, you assume that it does exist and act accordingly. Whenever you're in doubt, assume it does exist. Rule number 8, what actions you have to take in to avoid collision. You should take a wide alteration of course, maximum alteration of course if possible, to make sure the other vessel sees that this guy is actually altered. You know, 4 degrees, 3 degrees, 2 degrees of course is should be avoided. And sufficient sea room, alteration of course is the best. Okay, now here I was talking about 8D, until the other vessel is finally passed and clear. That is where you have to talk about this three. If you're fulfilling any of two criterias out of the three criteria that I said, bearing is opening, she's crossed your bow, she's crossed your beam. So that means she's finally passed and clear. You can also reduce your speed or take all of way off by stopping or reversing a means of propulsion. Container ships and all, I mean, we don't do that practically. Then 8F, it basically talks about the vessel who is a giveaway vessel, who is not supposed to impede the passage or safe passage of another vessel. He should take early action. Because he's talking about the giveaway vessel, that he should take early action if there is a risk of collision. Second thing, if he's taking action, he should have full regard to the rules of this part. And the other vessel, which is like a stand-on vessel, all right, when if there is a risk of collision, he's also fully obliged to comply with the rules of this part. Basically, it is about this. Now, next question is, if we are crossing situation with CBD vessel, okay, and she is on a starboard side, then who's the responsible? See, a CBD vessel, that means remember, you will never be crossing a CBD vessel. If you're crossing, that means you're crossing a narrow channel. That means there is a lane, safe passage. All right. So, stamp your rule number 9, it's mentioned. So whenever you should not cross a passage of a vessel following a safe passage. That is a CBD. So depending which rule you are in, like if she's on a starboard side, then you are duty to keep clear. Anyways, if she is on the port side, all right. So I believe if she's on a port, if she's on the port side, first of all, it is your duty not to impede a passage. Now, if you have not studied your rules and you're still impeding a passage, that time rule number 13 will come into picture, and then it will be her duty to keep clear of you. And that time, since she is a CBD, obviously she cannot alter to starboard or port depending on the sea room that she has, because CBD is depending on the available sea room and also the depth. All right. If she has a sea room on the starboard side, she can go to starboard and increase the CPA. But if not, then she is a CBD. She is going at a safe speed. That time she will use her engines and she'll let you pass ahead and abuse you on the way. I've answered that. Okay. Oh. All right, guys. It's almost 1 hour. That was long. So tomorrow's topic is going to be security. So that time we'll talk about piracy and the ship security plan and all that stuff. So enough for today. We will cover this ROR topic, some next time. So, and stability also, yes, definitely. Just DM me the topics that you want. If I see that a lot of people asking me the same topic, then I'll make any video accordingly. All right, then, guys, take care. Good night. All right. Chalo. See you next time, guys. Cheers.